Coming up on Leading the Charge.
Inevitably, it needs to make financial sense. So when we can show that not only are we reducing emissions through this technology compared to alternatives, but that it's also going to save you money, or it's going to get your project online faster if you've got a grid constraint, it's kind of a no-brainer.
This is Leading the Charge, where we talk innovation and insights in the industry of sustainable energy. Leading the Charge is brought to you by POWR2, a global provider of energy storage solutions. Let's simplify sustainability. And now, from the POWR2 studio and broadcasting everywhere from leadingthecharge.io, here are your hosts, Tim Doling and Kevin Sturmer. Welcome to Leading the Charge, where we talk battery energy storage, insights, innovation, and the industry of sustainable energy. My name is Kevin, and I work in the marketing department of a company called POWR2. With us, as always, is our incredible co-host, Tim Doling. He is the Director of Innovation here at POWR2. Tim, how are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, really excited. It's always a privilege to have some guests, especially guests from Australia on the phone. So really happy to get into this one.
So today we are taking a deep dive into the business side of sustainable energy, and we are lucky enough to be joined by two of the three co-founders of a company called Powershift Technologies. So Damien Glanville, CEO, and Sandra Brody, the Chief Operating Officer. Welcome to Leading the Charge. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. On a cold Australian morning.
I know. I appreciate the time difference. It's the very warm end of our day here in summer. I believe it's winter there for you, yeah?
Smack bang in the middle of it, really.
Yep.
Yeah. And then for those who may not know, Powershift is an Australian-owned clean tech company supporting industries to decarbonize through emission-free transportable power solutions. Now, Tim already had met you both in person. As I was doing some research for this episode, I was fascinated by the both of you, specifically your unique individual paths that have led you to Powershift. So, Damien, let's start with you. You have this wonderful entrepreneurial drive that started at an early age. You worked in trucking. You were doing solar. As Tim mentioned, you were doing solar before it was cool. And then you started a company called Locality Planning Energy. And most people know that as LPE, leading up to Powershift. Can you just talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I suppose I call it following the breadcrumbs. When I was young, I just wanted to be in business and be self-employed, so I'm always looking for opportunities. And trucking was I loved it, actually. It was quite exciting. I got to drive some fairly big trucks compared to those little ones you have running around in America. But no, it was good, and it led me to energy through stock feed. We were buying waste feed and turning it into something that in a drought period. So then I thought, maybe I'll have a crack at solar, and went into that direction, and then into solar farms, which weren't trendy at the time. And then became an energy retailer. So in Australia, we buy and sell electricity to mums and dads, and had a crack at that. And then from that, it was really, I was always looking for something new, and the energy grid in Australia was struggling like most grids around the world. And that's what led me down the road of there's got to be a smarter way to deal with these solutions. And so when Sandra and I came together to investigate how do we deploy large-scale or utility-scale batteries throughout Australia, and we just slightly naive and prepared to have a crack, and here we are.
It's so interesting because you said following the breadcrumbs, yet which sounds like it's sort of this happenstance, going here, going there, but it's very intentional. You've actually spent almost a decade and a half in sustainable energy, or energy in some level. So this is, this Powershift seems like a nice next step. And Sandra, you've had also just this incredible career. Now, you are the Chief Operating Officer, but your experience comes with aerospace and motorsports to mentorship. Something that caught my eye was your work with the mental and physical disabilities as well. Can you talk a little bit about those experiences and how those helped shape your career and perspective?
Yeah, I've had a really interesting and varied career path, you could say. None of it really makes sense or fits together, but you end up finding yourself in these positions where all of the things you've learned along the way support you with the current journey. So for me, it's just always been about following a new challenge and really jumping into things where I could help myself to grow more as a person, both personally and professionally. So I've tended to follow opportunities similar to Damien in the sense of follow the breadcrumbs, whether that's been professional opportunities that have arisen or people that have inspired me. I'm very, very driven to work with people who can push me to become better or who I want to learn something from. So I've often sort of jumped to different industries because I've met somebody who I thought was incredible and I wanted to work with, or a cause that I felt was incredible and wanted to work with. So I've kind of reinvented myself many times over through all the different industries that I've been in. They've all got a common thread of, I guess, pushing the boundaries through each of those industries, really focusing on growth and on innovation, which is really what excites me most about this opportunity in PowerShift. So I had the opportunity to meet Damien. Again, Damien was a person that inspired me through his own career journey, and as he says, just having a crack at something a little bit naively, bite off more than you can chew. And when we came together and looked at this particular opportunity, the thing that excited us both was the opportunity to innovate in this sector and do something that others are doing differently. And that's really what has inspired me to start PowerShift with Damien and our other co-founder, Justin. And yeah, here we are trying to bring this technology into Australia and do it differently here.
And it's such a wonderful theme. It's really comes down to the people. You mentioned it was, people connected you here, people connected you there. Success in business is really about the people. Tim, we were doing an interview last week and they said, what makes your company unique? And the first thing out of your mouth was our people. And that's so important to have these people that you can rely on as you grow a business at any stage. I'm curious, what kind of brought you together specifically? And then what led to the idea of PowerShift? Like, what was the state of the energy beyond sort of the declining energy grid? What was the state of the market there and the gaps that you specifically saw?
Like most energy networks around the world, be it not necessarily the physical, but even the energy markets, like coming out of the COVID era, everything was starting to fail. And, Australian energy market had cooked itself and actually financially failed. So, we came through that. And at the end of that, it was really about I needed a challenge. I needed to do something completely different. Not that I felt like I completely mastered the art of being an energy retailer, but I felt after 10 years it was time to look for a challenge. And I met Sandra a few years back, and she was looking for a challenge. And I said to her, "Hey, I've got this idea. We've got two opportunities on the table. One of them is plastic bins to replace bulker bags, and the second one was utility scale batteries, transportable." So
Very different ideas then.
Yeah.
Completely different. Hey, I'm obsessed. Yeah. I'm obsessed with trucks still too. So I was thinking, how can I get a truck involved in this in my next business venture? And so we went down this journey and we looked at both. And I said to Sandra, "Hey, let's just research this." And I suppose Sandra, that's you dived in the deep end and had a look at it.
Yeah. So we spent with the options of bins or batteries, we chose batteries, which is a bit more compelling. Yeah. And then we spent a good 12 months doing a deep dive into this opportunity before we started the company. So we flew all around the world to Europe and America. I'd obviously met you guys over there as well. And we spoke to many, many people across industry in Australia to understand where the gaps were and where the opportunity was before we decided to launch the company. And I guess what we realized through that process is that there is a huge opportunity to make an impact here in Australia. What we were seeing in the European market in particular was almost like looking ahead to, what is to come in the next 5 or 6 years, because the European market is ahead of us here. So we took a lot of lessons from what they were doing there and brought them back to Australia. And then part of our search was in finding the right partners from a technology perspective, because we didn't want to, reinvent the wheel and manufacture our own batteries or bring those components together. So I guess that's obviously where POWR2 came in. After looking at many different suppliers across the world, we chose you guys both in terms of the strength of the technology and capability bring, but also your people, as you mentioned previously. So when we came out and met the team, we were really impressed by the capability there, by the leadership team, by all the staff that we met, and we, vetted the project, the technology really deeply, and decided to bring all of those elements together to bring the POWR2 product into Australia. So, yeah, we did a lot of legwork in finding the gaps and figuring out where our sweet spot was, and chose the POWR2 POWRBANK MAX as our first product that we're bringing into the Australian market.
That's fantastic. So in your travels, Sandra, around the world, did you see any country that was, you mentioned Europe, but any country that was a clear leader in this type of technology?
Yeah, from our perspective, we spent quite a lot of time in the Netherlands. Through my research, we uncovered a few companies over there that had been in the space for 5 or 6 years, which, as you guys would know, in the MBES space is old. We'd seen a lot of companies over there that had been deploying mobile battery technology of the size and scale that we were interested in, and across sort of similar industries, and took a lot of lessons from those guys over there. And I think the Netherlands is well ahead. They've obviously now even got marketplaces where, people that are looking for battery solutions can be connected with battery technology that's available. So from our perspective, that's where we would see the Australian market eventually maturing to, but we've got a long way to go to get there.
Do you think that'll be quicker, though, in the Australian market, because it's now proven technology? Other countries have forged that path. So the technology is proven, the products are fit and ready for the market. So you would think adoption could be quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously that's our part of our mission, is that's what we want to lead here. And I think through finding the right technology, so yes, the technology has matured and through companies like yours. However, in Australia, there's not a large penetration of that sort of size, scale, quality of technology, but also in the applications that we're looking at, there are some fairly, I guess, new areas that we're delving into here. But what we're aiming to achieve is to do it differently, to innovate and to bring that technology into new kind of market segments over here, so that we can lead the way in maturing the market in Australia.
Australia's a funny place. Like, it stems back from colonialism, I suppose, where we don't like doing what other people do. So we don't like copying or benchmarking. We like to reinvent the wheel, and it's a bit of that stupidity that Australians have attracted over time. So we love a smartphone. We'll adopt the quickest smartphone that's available. When it comes to other technology, we lag a bit. So it's a bit of force feeding at the moment. But, look, I think this will come a lot quicker. This decarbonisation race is pretty well much a motivator to do it. But we talk about this all the time. And as much as we all love sustainability and we, as I say, we're not tree huggers. But what we do believe in is smart technology and innovation. And if smart technology and innovation can actually achieve an outcome and stack up on its own without government subsidies or government grants, that's really where you want to be, because you can force change and it makes sense. Now, this isn't about always being cheaper. This is all about you can reduce carbon and not actually cost you any more money. So they're our angles that we're pushing. So.
Yeah, it's good. So it's a solution that makes sense, it's reliable, and it could potentially save money. You mentioned government subsidies. Is there not any subsidies in Australia, or you're just not relying on that in your business modelling?
Yeah, there's definitely funding in Australia from a broader perspective, both nationally and state-based, in battery technology. And actually Australia's kind of one of the leaders in that space. They've invested billions of dollars in it. However, from our perspective, it's not a commercially viable business model if you're reliant on that technology. And I think what we've seen, as Damien said, in this technology being practical, smart, cost-effective, it actually doesn't matter what the government policy of the day is, because there's always going to be an opportunity. So the grid will always have constraints for as far as the near future holds. And there will always be, a large number, at least for the near-term future, a large number of diesel generators operating out there, whether you have, policy that supports that or not. So I think from our point of view, it's great to have policy and funding initiatives that support it, because everyone in industry gets behind it, but we're certainly not reliant on that at all.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. We're exactly the same boat because you can have a change of government and they can roll back all the regulations or incentives that have been put in place by the previous government. So it's just not a good business strategy. It's much more about making it make sense, identifying opportunities where the customer's going to see some real benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all the business cases that we've done for customers that we're working with at the moment, they all make financial sense. So it's obviously, as Damien said, it ticks the decarbonization box, and sometimes that's the topic that opens the door to a conversation. But of course, inevitably, it needs to make financial sense. So when we can show that not only are we reducing emissions through this technology compared to alternatives, but that it's also going to save you money or it's going to get your project online faster if you've got a grid constraint, it's kind of a no-brainer.
So speaking to that, do you have some modeling tools that you use with your clients to prove out to them ahead of time that it's going to make sense, or how do you handle that type of thing?
Well, outside the two models you got on the screen now,
Well, those are the most important ones, of course.
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
Pete's done a great job of that, hasn't he?
Yeah. So we do. We've got quite a comprehensive tool that our electrical engineer has built for us. So Pete, that we brought into the team, again, going back to unique people, he's actually from an aerospace background and avionics, so very intelligent human. And obviously leveraging off some of the information from you guys on the product, but we've built our own kind of custom tool. And our process is that every time we speak to a customer, we gather an amount of data from them, we plug it into the tool, and then we do some modelling to show them what the expected results are. So how the battery will support them in their particular application, and then what the cost savings, CO2 emission savings are going to be through that process. So I think, again, that means that they've got something concrete in front of them that will show them what the potential benefits are.
That's awesome.
When it comes to grid support, or, in Australia we call them distribution network service providers, DNSPs, you can't quantify the value you're going to save those particular organisations, because they might be trying to put in a bigger pipe, example, to move more energy, whereas this battery could actually save them on their capital infrastructure costs or delay it a period of time that enables them to shuffle where they spend their money. So you can't really go to them and quantify what their value is, but they know themselves that by putting a few of your batteries on the grid, they can save millions of dollars in just pushing out some capital works or a substation upgrade or something like that. So from that perspective, it's hard to quantify the value to them, but they see and understand the value to them. And I think what's become quite evident is having the flexibility to move assets like this around to support their grid is really going to be a big part of that transition to more renewable energy in the Australian market.
Yeah, it's about the temporary, scalable, reliable power that people can count on. There's a lot of different use cases, everything from construction to mining to even backing up large-scale data centers if need be. And it sounds like there are some partnership approaches that you have. We have a partnership approach here because it is so new to a lot of customers, and maybe they really want to take that transition to sustainable energy. They have some sustainable energy goals, but they're not quite sure where to start. And they really do need that partnership. And again, it comes back to the people. Is that what you're finding over there as well?
Do you mean in terms of partnership with industry?
Partnership with industry is people, regardless of what company they're in, they're looking for a guide. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of our kind of key pillars is to provide service excellence through what we do. So we've chosen to go to market in Australia, and we also have the New Zealand and Pacific Islands territories via, we call it a leasing model, but it's rental, hire, whatever term you want to use for it. Part of the reason we've chosen to do that is because we really believe in supporting customers through the process of deploying this technology. It is still quite new for some people to wrap their heads around not necessarily what a battery is, but a mobile battery, and through the applications that we're suggesting that it's used in, where it can be most useful. So what we found is that in Australia in particular, a lot of our customer base, the only options they have is to purchase
even a mobile battery technology, there aren't a lot of options to hire them, particularly from a long-term basis. So we aim to support the customer all the way through the process of, as we mentioned before, analysing their data, proposing the right solution, deploying it on site for them, and then training their team and supporting them all the way through the rental process so that they get the best out of that technology. So I guess that's the way that we're partnering with our customers through that process, because the last thing we want to do is deploy technology that they have to learn how to use on their own, or that they don't know how to use properly to get the outcome that they're expecting to get. So that's something that's really, really important to us to help our customers succeed.
And I suppose adding to that, another key part to that is that we can see a succession plan for these assets as they age. We know that we can find supplementary markets. You know, we might downgrade the asset as it gets a bit long in the tooth to an ag, or arbitrage on the energy market types of things where full capacity isn't required. So whereas there, you know, we can keep telling we'll refresh this asset, you'll have a brand new battery every 3 to 5 years, then we can just push the battery down the food chain into a job that doesn't demand that full capacity.
To kind of get what you were saying it before, Damien, where do you see this going maybe in the next 3, 5, or even 10 years?
You know, it's an interesting conversation about where the energy transition comes from, but I think combustible engines are going to be around for a long time yet. I don't think before we're in the grave that they'll have disappeared. So I think there's a long journey for that smart technology. I honestly think we struggle with the transition to being smarter sometimes, and I think this product will just become a natural fit. I often use the analogy of it's your car when it comes to a set of traffic lights. The car turns off because of that free spinning engine's just wasting power. So I think the transition in that batch in supporting diesel generators, and that will always be a part of the world's energy needs. And then I think the grid, you know, the more renewables you put into the grid, the more unstable that grid becomes. So the batteries will naturally play a part in that mechanism as well, because they can be seasonally moved around. And we look at agriculture in this country, and no different to yours. You know, it's a big part of our, I suppose, revenue or government coffers, and there's massive amounts of water we move around the country. So I think that, again, will become smarter in how we farm, and this technology, you look at the electrifying of machinery. You know, Volvo doing an amazing job pulling out some technology to support that movement. You know, you've got John Deere that have got, they'll have driverless electric headers running around in 2025 down under. So all of that requires an ability to charge. So, you know, working in agriculture for a large part of my life before I transitioned to energy, you know, instead of having a ute with a bit of diesel in the back that runs out to the header to fill it up, you're going to have a little truck with a battery in the back that's going to run out to the paddock to recharge the header. So I think eventually my goal is I hope we see that, you know, energy is, you can move energy around as well. Like at the moment, the assumption is energy's through poles and wires. Whereas I think the evolution will be energy's in a battery, and you just take the battery to where the energy is required. So it's a bit of a shift in how, you know, for 100 years, this is how we've consumed energy. So it's a bit of a shift, but I feel like it'll happen. We're a bit slow to the market sometimes down under, but I think we'll get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the beauties about a product like the POWRBANK MAX that we've partnered with you guys on is just how versatile that product is. We're finding so many new applications for it on a daily basis. And I believe that's just going to continue to grow over the next 5 or 10 years. And again, we have a range of other opportunities opening up outside of Australia, including in some remote islands in the Pacific Islands. Like, there's just so many different applications for this technology. And as Damien said, as people start to become more familiar with it, more comfortable with that technology, it'll just become the norm, and it will support us through the decarbonisation journey and beyond.
Is there any exciting or cool applications you've come across that you're able to share? Or I don't want you to obviously speak to anything that's confidential here, but just be interested to hear.
Everything's exciting.
Yeah.
And cool when you're not here.
Yeah, it is. Probably one of the customers that we're working with on an island, that is a really interesting application, partially because of the remoteness of it, but also the pathway that opens up through this technology. So this particular island is operating completely from a diesel generator. They don't have any other mechanism for generation of energy. So it's supporting accommodation, a wastewater treatment facility, a whole bunch of things on the island. And through introducing a mobile battery, we're able to, cut down the amount of runtime and fuel on the generator, which sort of gives a cost neutral effect for the battery. But then importantly, their whole goal is to become a sustainable island. So it will enable them to also then install solar on their roofs out there and use the battery to, store that energy and deploy it. So that's really exciting because that opportunity has never been something that's open to that particular island and what it presents as a pathway, and then opening up other opportunities for whether they're remote islands or it's accommodation facilities, in tropical North Queensland or wherever it is. It's a new opportunity for those particular applications that I think will open up a lot in that space.
I think the key there is, we're enabling them to be smarter. So there's two key things for me from that particular opportunity. Firstly, how they get fuel to that island is just archaic. And, we are in 2024, but they actually throw the drums of diesel off a barge into the ocean, then push them up.
Roll them.
Push them
up
from the
sand.
ocean onto the sand, then roll them up the beach. Like, that's amazing. Like, I just go, how can you not be worried about spills or damages? And this is in a very sensitive environmental area. And then secondly, the most important thing is, at the moment, they're trying to create load to run these diesel generators. So instead of being smarter on how they consume their energy, they're actually forcing energy load onto these generators to make sure they don't glaze over or they don't have issues with them, because obviously energy has a cycle throughout a day, or, it's not consistent. So this technology gives them the ability to turn energy off. So go around and turn off the air console. Be smarter with how they use their energy. So not only does it reduce fuel and carbon from running a generator less, it actually reduces fuel and carbon because it's enabling the island to become smarter in how they consume energy. And I think that's exciting because...
it's exciting to us and it's exciting to them because this is part of their goal of how they've wanted to operate as a more sustainable island. So being able to open up that opportunity is we're definitely achieving our mission through that.
Yeah, 100%.
That is exciting.
It is. And I think that's what this technology brings. It brings, once upon a time, this wasn't accessible. It would have been too difficult to achieve that outcome. Yeah, arguably it's an in situ outcome, but, your technology is it's going to enable change, and it just takes someone to get out there and plant a seed and harvest that opportunity.
Exactly.
The perfect people are in the right spot for this island. You've got all that experience with solar, also all the experience with energy, and you're handing over the right tools. And as solar becomes probably quicker in charging, that will be definitely a solution. What's coming up next for you, PowerShift? I mean, what is it? Is it more? Is it education than anything else?
Yeah, I think education is just a natural part of this journey because people still look at you sideways when you tell them it's transportable and you can move it around. So there is a journey for that, but for us, it's like you want to be everywhere at once, and it's quite when you try to communicate to people, they look at you weirdly, or trying to get people engaged. So education is really the key part of success, I think, and trying to drive that message out there. And, batteries have been around for a long time, so it's not like this is new technology. But the fact that you can move it is really where people look at you sideways. And, we're a bit slow to the mark down here sometimes, so Australians can be late to the party occasionally.
And I think, again, taking inspiration from what we've seen evolve over the last 5 or 6 years in Europe, in countries like the Netherlands, and seeing all of that sort of diversity of applications across different industries that we've not even imagined as yet, that's really exciting. So we're kind of starting, and we're not even starting slow, I would say. We're kind of, off the mark as quick as we can to have conversations across all parts of industry to find the best possible applications for this, and that'll only continue to grow. So we're pretty excited to get the tech out in the market, and we're sure that in a couple of years' time you'll be talking to us and hopefully we'll have hundreds of batteries out there operating with different people.
Yeah, we have a saying called activity equals outcome, and anyone that's worked with me over the years hates that saying. Because the more you're active, and at the moment, sometimes you feel like you come and go, that was a bit of a kick in the up day. It was a bit depressing, but it's activity. You just more and more you're active, and you're out there trying to communicate or talk to people about the opportunity. It just keeps coming, and I think horizon, the opportunity is huge here. It's how hard are you prepared to work to achieve the outcome, I think.
Yep. And it's also it's showing them that it works. That those tangible examples, those being able to point to a project that has been successful. It's sort of like a parent feeding a child for the first time, and they take that first bite and they say, "Oh, that's where that goes," and they kind of figure that out, and this is going to be good for them in the long run. And that's sort of how it is here. That adoption will increase when people see success in other places.
Yeah, and we're finding too that we'll often go and speak with a customer, and we'll start with an application or a couple of applications that we think will work best, and then as we talk with the customer and we workshop, we end up uncovering another 10 things that neither of us had thought of before. So it's really exciting, and every customer that we speak to is inspired by the technology as well. As Damien said, there's a little bit of you can feel the cogs going because they haven't thought about energy in this way before. But then inevitably the week after they'll come back with they've thought about 10 other things that we could do with the technology. So that gives us a lot of inspiration in terms of where we'll be in the next few years.
That's so great to hear. Any other questions, Tim?
No, I've enjoyed this. I like some of Damien's comments there. Activity equals outcomes, and bite off more than you can chew, and then chew like hell. Do you have any more of those, Damien?
That's the other favorite one, yeah.
We're talking about this yesterday. We're thinking about what could be one that sort of simulates with yourselves, and we're probably talking about the underachieving Buffalo Bills. They come out of the guns every year. They look like they're a chance to make the big GF, the grand final, or the playoff, and they just perform, and then they die. But I suppose when you got Patrick Mahomes running around for the nemesis there, it's probably going to beat him every year. But yeah,
it seems to be the way probably for the foreseeable future. I think with Patrick Mahomes doing what he's doing.
Yeah. So. He's a gun, isn't he? Really, but no, I think the key here is, it's a great opportunity. I think there's, your vision and the way you want to take this product is, I suppose, supports our ability. When we talk about this all the time, and there's a company around the world called Thank You, and what they're about is, we listened to one of their founders speak a while back, and his argument is you only need to do 5% good and let 95% be done by other people, and let them do it really good, and then you can create this great model of achieving success. And that's where we're at. We want to be good at our 5%, which is finding the customers and deploying it to the customers, and working with you on that other 95, which is the brains and evolving of that technology, and and making it smarter and possibly bigger. And when we say bigger, not bigger in footprint, but bigger in output.
Exactly. We're excited for the partnership, and I think we can work together very well.
Yeah. Well, now, as we do with every episode, we do end by answering a question from our audience. And if you have a question that you would like to submit, you can send it to leadingthecharge@power2.com. Now, today's question comes from Ken in California. Ken asks, what actions are needed to boost the adoption of solutions like the POWRBANK MAX, which we've been talking about, and move us closer to that net zero globally?
The first thing for me is education. And we've talked about that a lot, but it's been a theme for us in speaking with customers and others across industry, is the more that we can educate, particularly through examples, but the more information that we can give to the market, the more comfortable they become with the technology, and it opens up new opportunities. So I definitely think that is something crucial.
And with that comes belief too. I think what we need is from all your sales channels is that massive belief in the product, and this is where the future is going. And with that belief, you have this strong will to actually force change. And this isn't going to be easy, because you've got to convince people to change their habits here. And habits could be from using less combustion fuel to adopting a battery, to actually using less energy to adopt a battery. So I think, humans don't like change. It's just obvious that's how we function. So, our job is to really educate and push change. And if we do that, people will adopt this technology faster. And I think this technology is still quite a long way ahead of any of the other renewable technologies that's, following behind, like hydrogen or something like that.
Yeah, and I just want to add one other thing too, is that in the same way that we were speaking about before, we've taken lessons from other parts of the world and doing that and showing others how it has been working, whether that's in the US or in Europe. Also, it's part of education, but it gives confidence that whilst it may be the first time that a customer is using it in this particular way in this country, they can take confidence in it has been deployed in these ways in other countries, and they can take confidence in a supplier like yourselves that have track record. So you put all of those things together and then you sort of de-risk that solution for the customer, and it becomes a no-brainer.
Yep, listen and learn. Bit like your favourite sport team, cricket. Just got to get out in the middle and
Knock it around a bit. Get a
We're not talking about cricket. Since the World Cup's over, we're not going there.
Cricket, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's why we were talking about the Dutch. Oh, I forgot about that.
That's right. Yeah.
Whatever platform you are on, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, leave a review, do all of those good things that you do. And if you want to learn more, we'll have links to everything in the show notes. Where can people find you online, actually?
We are at powershift.tech is our website, and you can also follow PowerShift on LinkedIn.
If you have any questions, head over to leadingthecharge.io. Now, our legal team wants me to say that any statements or views expressed by the hosts or guests on Leading the Charge are entirely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions or positions of POWR2, their partners, or affiliates. And I just want to say a big thank you to Damien and Sandra and Tim for being here and sharing so much insight.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you,
for having
Kevin.
us.
Thank you, Brody.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Cheers, you too. Thanks a lot.
And we know your time is valuable and appreciate you spending even a little bit of that time with us. So let's simplify sustainability and keep leading the charge toward a world powered by sustainable energy. See you next time.